Good evening and welcome to Hard Talk. This is Carl Burroughs. Tonight we continue our focus on Augusta's long and rich Black history. You know, the CSRA has a large number of churches offering a wide range of preferences and denominations. During Black History Month, we have selected one that has earned the honor of being recognized as the oldest independently formed Black Baptist church in the country. Historians all agree that Springfield Baptist Church deserves that distinction. Joining us tonight is the pastor of the historical Springfield Baptist Church, Reverend Emmett Martin. You'll learn some interesting and fascinating, not to mention historical facts about Springfield, along with some of the many changes that have occurred within the church since its inception. How has those changes affected the role of the Black family and society in general? Are our Black churches experiencing an increase or decline in membership? What impact has the economy had on the Black church? When we return, we'll be asking the hard questions. And as always, we'll be looking for straight answers tonight on Hard Talk. Hard Talk, this is Carl Burroughs. And tonight we're talking with Reverend Emmett Martin. Reverend Martin is the pastor of the historical Springfield Baptist Church. Welcome to Hard Talk. Should I call you Pastor Reverend?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
You just call me Emmett.
Emmett.
Yeah,
you even better. That's right. Emmett. Tell us a little something about Springfield Baptist Church.
Springfield Baptist Church was organized in 1787 by the Reverend Jesse Peters, excuse me, who had been given his freedom in order to organize Springfield. It was the first independently formed Black Baptist Church. And of course, Springfield has an unbroken record because she has never vanished. Service has been continuous since inception.
That's amazing.
Right.
That's let me see, I'm trying to add it up. I'm bad. 206 years.
206 years in August.
That's a long time. Tell us something about Peters.
Well, the only thing we found out about him is that he was a slave on the Golfin plantation. And apparently he was highly recognized by the Golfins. He carried their last name sometimes, but he was not a formally trained man. But while worshiping at Silver Bluff, in the balcony at that time, he was able to learn a lot from the pastor there. I see. But later he was educated by Reverend Abraham.
Let's do some clarification on one thing, and I think you want to get that straight too. Springfield Baptist Church is the oldest independently formed Black Baptist church in the country. Now, Silver Bluff is the oldest Baptist church. The difference being that you all are independently formed. Can you explain that a little further?
Yes, sir. Silver Bluff was not organized the Black Baptist Church.
Okay.
It was organized the white church, and it was handed over to the slaves. However, Silver Bluff would have been older than Springfield, and many of the members of Springfield came from Silver Bluff.
I see. I guess this time of year, you stay pretty busy trying to keep everybody informed as to the historical significance of Springfield Baptist Church.
I guess between Augusta College and Payne College, it's quite a job because the children or the students, shall I say, are really writing about Springfield.
I see. You just left the Youth Development Center too.
Yes.
Some of the boys had a lot to ask about Springfield, and what are some of the questions they asked you?
Well, they like to know a little bit about the first pastor. They also like to know a little bit about the history of the church and what the church possibly looked like during those days. And it's very little when it comes to what the church looked like, because it was a brush harbor, and the children, I don't even know what that is.
Neither do I. What are some of the major changes you've seen over the last 50 years in the Black church? Say Springfield Baptist Church. I know you can't speak for all the Black churches, but particularly in your church.
Well, I think in addition to physical structure changing, I think that you have lost in the Black church the unity that you once had. There was a fellowship. It seems now that you don't have the unity, the care, the love, the fellowship, and the sacrifice that we had, say, 50 years ago. Of course, now I wasn't around Springfield 50 years ago.
Well, I understand. What do you think contributed to those changes?
Well, I think as people became more educated, the church has gotten away from the spiritual realm, and the church is trying to incorporate into a business now. And spirituality has been lost. And I think you got too many folk who are trying to be expertise in business rather than in religion.
It saddens me a little bit now. And I understand that churches have to survive, but how can you reverse that? Like, to me, the unity and all of the coming together and the brotherhood, that should be utmost, foremost, first priority.
It's a Sunday thing now. The church is no longer weekly as it has been. Even in your midweek worship, in your mission groups, you have just a handful of people who continue to carry those on, when you had the whole church years ago participating in these things. And I think the second thing is that activity. People involve themselves in other social and some civic activity in the community, and their time as well as their allegiance is divided.
Do you ever see that trend reversing, whereas we go back to where it used to be?
I hope we will.
It's going to take a lot of.
I hope we will. I think the more activity that the community has provided, somehow the church is trying to compete with the community. And it shouldn't be a competitive type thing.
I see. Okay. What is basically your spiritual philosophy at Springfield?
Well, I think I'd have to deal with the chief characteristic of God, and that is love each other as the Father has loved us. And that means in spite of. But sometimes that's hard for many people to do.
I want to ask you too about the young people in the church. I want to ask you about some of the activities that the church are involved in, with some of the community problems, and a few other things too. And I know you're more than capable to answer some of these questions. And we're going to do just that after we return. We got to take a break right now. Tonight we're talking with Reverend Emmett Martin. He's the pastor. How long have you been pastor there?
21 years.
21 years. You are historical. 21 years at the historical Springfield Baptist Church. And we'll come back and talk more with Reverend Martin. This is Carl Burroughs, and this is Hard Talk. We'll be right back with Reverend Emmett Martin. He's the pastor of the historical Springfield Baptist Church. And a lot of churches, the Black church, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Black church has always been out front in the civil rights struggle. We could go to the church, we couldn't go nowhere else. And I think the church, I noticed that some of the churches are still doing that now. A lot of churches and ministers have been trying to eliminate neighborhood crime, by marching in the streets. Do you see more churches doing this, or do you feel that this is an effective way of doing it in terms of trying to eliminate some of the neighborhood crime?
Well, first of all, I think we have to go back and see why the Black church does it. The Black church was really the center of everything.
Right, absolutely.
And I believe it was 1866 that the first civil rights movement was organized. And they called it the Georgia Equal Rights Association. And it was organized in Springfield. And certainly we feel indebted to the community to continue such. It's not ineffective. I think that according to the situation, it's what is being done, that every church should be actively involved in some way, whether it's through financial support, whether it's through marching, or whether it's through handling something on an individual basis. Now, when you get my age, you do very little marching, but there should be a contribution by each Black church from each black minister. And then some of us are pretty good in negotiating, and I found out that sometimes when you negotiate a situation, it's cleared up in a matter of seconds.
Okay. I was curious about that because, there were so many complaints about church. What about churches? A church that has been very vocal about crime in the neighborhood, and I know it's a problem. I even hear about churches that are being broken into, and sacrilegious. What is the word?
Religious. Yeah.
I think that's the ultimate. To desecrate a church, to burglarize a church. I want to talk about the young people out there. How has Springfield got the young people involved in the church? Because personally, if you don't have the young people coming up, the survival of the church is destined to almost end. If you don't have people that you're constantly recruiting, what are you doing? Not necessarily your church, but just churches in general, doing to bring the young people into the church and keeping them there?
I don't think that there is any church who does not have some form of program going for young people. Now, sometimes we let some of these programs become relaxed. First of all, the reason they become relaxed is that people with whom you depend on are basically people who work. Some folk work swing shifts and various types of jobs, and they're unable to be as active as they desire. One of our great problems in not having the kind of youth programs, and not only my church, but many of the other churches that we should have, is that we don't have a full-time youth minister. I mean, somebody who's on the payroll. It's a little different in dealing with people who are volunteering and people who are on the payroll. You have an activity that meets weekly, and this is the week for this fellow to be working during the hour of this activity. Then he has to go to work. Okay.
I see what you're saying.
And
it requires more help.
Right, more help.
Yeah.
And then it also requires more money. You've got to put out money to have an effective youth program.
Okay. Well, let's talk about money for a minute. Has the recession, I know it has, a stupid question, but I guess I should ask it anyway. How much has the recession affected the operation of the church? I know if I have less money, it's less money that I can give to the church. I know all churches are experiencing some, but how bad is it?
Well, I think most churches, and especially churches such as my church, for an example, we did a $400,000 project, a community project. We restored the longest standing church building in the city, the St. John Memorial Building. And we are faced with a $3,350 a month note. And certainly we have not been able to get any funds at this point to have assisted us with what I thought was a community project. To my dismay, we did get a plaque, and really what the plaque was for, in appreciation for our doing what we did without having to ask the city for any money. So the city gave us a plaque for that. And so it has really hurt us financially, because in restorations, I was told that the loan could not go but so long. If we could have even stretched it out a few more years, it would have helped. And you find yourself, back to the youth, you find yourself not being able to do the things that are going to be attractive and hold them there. Children are full of energy, and they need activity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Supervised, responsible activity. To have this, you must have a variety of things.
I understand exactly where you're coming from. And I guess the people in the church just can't do it all. I mean, how much money can you give? How much? Because I think it's just going to take a lot of people working together to try to solve each individual problem, each individual church. Would you agree with that?
Very much so.
Okay. Again, we're talking with Reverend Emmett Martin. Tonight we're talking about the historical Springfield Baptist Church and some of the problems facing the Black church, and how hopefully we're going to be able to solve some of them. We'll be back and talk more with Reverend Martin. This is Carl Burroughs, and this is Hard Talk. Please return with us.
How can you change a child's life? As easily as you can fill an empty glass. Around our world, children's lives are empty. Little children are struggling every day with hunger. All they need is some nourishing food. Little children are suffering and dying each day from sickness. All they need is the chance to see a doctor. Little children are growing up trapped in hopeless poverty, just like the poverty that still traps their parents. What they need is the opportunity to go to school. When you become a Child Reach sponsor, you help fill a needy child's life, not with handouts, but with self-help programs that change the child and the family's future. In return, you find your own life a little fuller, too. Please call for details on how you can help. Right now, a child needs a heart like yours, filled to the brim with love.
This is Hard Talk, and this is Carl Burroughs. Our guest tonight is Reverend Emmett Martin. He's the pastor of the legendary Springfield Baptist Church here in Augusta, Georgia. And we're talking about the church in general tonight. And one thing that we want to do is call attention to a lot of problems that the Black church, a lot of the Black churches are undergoing right now. And a lot of people, I guess everybody would agree that the church has been the main support to Black families and to the African American community for so many years. It's really time for us to kind of give some back. When you think, Reverend Martin, let me just ask you a few things in reference to the historical significance of Springfield Baptist Church. Other than the oldest, enjoying being the oldest church, what other things are you most proud of about Springfield Baptist Church?
Well, there are many things that have happened within our church. First of all, let's go back to some of the history of it. Morehouse College was organized there.
Right.
So which has given Springfield a deep appreciation for education. Our children are encouraged from week to week to do a lot in the field of education. The second thing that I must say that a lot of people can't boast, I probably have some of the best officers that any church would ever have. I've been there 21 years, and there are a lot of people who talk about deacons, but I haven't found an opportunity to say anything negatively yet. I've got a good board of deacons, good board of trustees. I have a small membership, but I've got some good people with whom to work.
Oh, that's great. That says a lot. I guess you've had it for a long time too.
Very much so.
I think that's I think you should do that right now. Thank you.
Yeah, I do think. Thanks, Springfield.
You know, we hear so much about the Black family, and people just don't realize how important the church has been in the past, keeping that Black family together. I mean, we have to recognize the fact that the church has played a part you couldn't even begin to evaluate. I mean, it's just been unbelievable, you know, like you said before. Do you think we would ever get a chance to, and I asked you this earlier, do you think we'll ever get a chance to see some of that involvement with the family? And, you know, I just enjoy seeing families go to church on Sunday and kids growing up in the church, you know, and I know you still have that at a lot of churches. And what are your feelings about just what the churches can do in order to strengthen that bond of the Black family?
Well, I think one of the things is that our churches have got to organize into a ministry of committed people who are ready to really work. We are really overtaxing what we call the faithful few.
Right.
And we need that crew to go sit down with families and, excuse me, say to them the meaning the church has. See, everybody still wants to put the church on a physical level. Hey, what can you do for me as a church? What can you do for me? I've got a bad boy. What can you do for him? See, the church must continue to teach and preach the word. Share in helping parents and counseling with pastoring, but you can't do something that the home has not done.
Absolutely.
And so we got to go back to realism. We got to go back to renewing the renewed mind, the strengthening of the faith as we once had. And we've got to stop being so competitive with each other and start working with each other. This happens in marriages, this happens in churches and schools, and where we've got that common goal, we've got to work on it and with it.
Because we're all in it together.
Yeah, we are.
You know, you save one, you got to save all.
We are.
We're in it together. I wanted to ask you this. You don't have to comment on this if you don't want to, but it bothers me about this psychic healing. I don't know what's your feeling on that. You know, they got these 900 numbers. And is this some new age, something that's coming? You know, everybody has turned to something, some other kind of power. Have you had any thoughts on that? Have you heard? You know what I'm talking about? Even Dionne Warwick, one favorite entertainer, is talking about calling the nine. I know that's another show, but I wanted to kind of connect to some way to the spiritual, to what's going on in the real world. You know.
I'm not familiar with that because I had not seen it. I've heard about psychics, but not the psychic healing. I do believe that God heals. And I have no problem with that. I believe that all healing is done by God. I have no problem with this. And I believe that any person who asks in his name and it is his will be healed.
And it won't cost you $4.95 a minute. I feel the same way, you know. I mean, who can predict the future? Who can really know by looking at the star what's going to happen? You know, unless I'm missing something, you know. You know, I've always said a prayer and it was boom, here it is, you know, it was done. But anyway, I won't put you on the spot.
That's okay.
I
I believe that God heals. I mean, all of this other, I'm not familiar with it, that part of it.
Okay.
But if it's his will, he does it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What do you see as vision for Black churches for the future? What do you think we're going to be facing in the next coming years?
Well, we face what we prepare for. And if it's joy and a glorious people, and that's what we're going to reap.
Give me your favorite Bible passage. We're almost out of time.
Today's song. Oh Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all of the earth. That has always carried me through life. And when I'm down, I just always quote that. It's not a verse that's asking for anything special, but it's recognizing his majesty and power. And I just love it.
Well, I thank you. I appreciate you sharing that with us. And we're out of time, but I've enjoyed this immensely. And hopefully you can come back and talk some more. And don't wait until it's Black History. And I appreciate your honesty and you for being so candid too. Okay, tonight we've talked with Reverend Emmett Martin. He's the pastor of the legendary Springfield Baptist Church. Church has been around since 1787, enjoying 206 years of serving. So until then, we'd like to invite you to the church, to Springfield Baptist Church. And we also like to thank our guests for being with us tonight. We'll come back with our question of the week and also our guest and what's going on next week. This is Hard Talk, and this is Carl Burroughs. We'll be right back.
The National Institute on Aging talks with George Burns and Bobby Benton about growing older.
I've learned that you can't help getting older, but you don't have to get old.
Do you think you're slowing up?
No, I'm not getting any faster, but I'm sitting down on plan.
For free tips on healthy aging, call 1-800-222-2225.
Welcome back. This is Carl Burroughs, and our guest tonight has been Reverend Emmett Martin. He's the pastor of the legendary and historical Springfield Baptist Church, the first independently formed Black Baptist church in the country, and that is an honorable distinction. A couple of weeks ago, we had former Mayor of Augusta, Ed McIntyre, on the show, And one of the questions we asked him was, what was some of the problems or problem with Augusta that stuck out in his mind? And he said that in Augusta, it's a great place to live, great people and all that, but we have formed and created two societies, two communities, a Black community and a white community. And I thought about that for a long time, simply because in order for us to understand and appreciate and respect each other, we really have to communicate with each other. And if there's two different societies going two different ways, it'll never happen. Like the train shall never meet. Our question of the week is formed from the observation of Ed McIntyre, and it's what should our community leaders do in order to help promote a healthy existence between all races of people in our community? That's our question of the week. And if you don't respond to it by writing me a letter or a postcard, just food for thought. Think about that for a minute and think about what you might can do in order to make Augusta a better place to live for all of our people. Next week, we'll have a member from the educational community on Hard Talk, and hopefully to update and inform us of some of the problems and some of the progress that has taken place with the Board of Education here in Augusta, Georgia. And again, we'd like to have a member from our community, from the educational community on our show to give us some info. So until then, please join us at that time. This is Carl Burroughs. Don't forget now, next week we'll be asking the hard questions, looking for straight answers on Hard Talk. So please join us. Good night.